You're listening to the Neighborhood Bulldog, where the porch light's always on and the maroon runs deep. I'm Scott Neighbors, and this is your home for real Mississippi State sports talk. Around here, we don't chase headlines. We break down the wins, the losses, the culture, and what it really means to be a Bulldog. If it matters in Starkville, it matters here. So pull up a chair, grab a drink, and welcome to the neighborhood. Hail State. Welcome back to another episode of the Neighborhood Bulldog here after a Easter weekend. I hope everyone had a fantastic Easter weekend. I'll tell you who didn't have a good weekend is the Mississippi State Bulldog baseball team getting swept at home at Duty Noble Field to the Georgia Bulldogs. A rare occurrence and one we have not seen for a few years now. However, like Brian O'Connor said, sweeps do happen in this league, but really didn't expect it to happen this weekend, nor the way that it happened to the Mississippi State baseball team. Just kind of got the air taken out of our balloon a little bit based on how we were feeling coming into the weekend. So, Georgia sweeps Mississippi State. Let's get into how that happened. They won all three games starting on Thursday night. Series was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, due to Sunday being Easter Sunday. I think everybody has shared this same sentiment, but I love not playing on Easter Sunday. I think that should be the norm. Things like Mother's Day, um, holidays on Sundays should be avoided, in my opinion. It gives the players time to refresh, spend some time with family, and there's not a team out there that needs that more right now than Mississippi State after a bad weekend. So, starting on Thursday night, Georgia comes into the game and ends up beating Mississippi State in game one of the series, wins 10-9. And you look at the score and you say, wow, what a high scoring game. That score does not nearly do it justice of how the game went. Starting off, Charlie Foster got the start for Mississippi State, again in place of an injured Ryan McPherson. Last week in Oxford, he looked the part. He looked like he could carry this role for a few weeks until McPherson gets back and healthy. But the Charlie Foster we got on Thursday night was the start of the season Charlie Foster that was not very good. Lose 10-9. Georgia jumped out to a 5-1 lead by the time we were in end of the third inning. Made it 10-2 by the end of the fifth inning. And then from that point, Mississippi State finally woke their offense up a little bit, getting a home run from Aiden Teal, a 2 RBI double from Ryder Woodson, a Jacob Parker sac fly, Andrew Raymond with an RBI single, and Andrew Raymond with another RBI off of a ground ball error, and then Garrick Fry tagging up from third base, taking home in the ninth inning on a Bryce Chance pop up to second in foul territory over on the right field side. The guy for Georgia made an absolutely incredible catch. And kudos to Garrick Fry for recognizing the situation to get that score within 1 to 10-9 there in the ninth inning, but ultimately just couldn't finish it off there. So that ends up being the final score. Like I mentioned, Charlie Foster reverting back to start of the season. Charlie Foster, he only gave us 2 innings on Thursday night at the start of the game, gives up 4 hits, 5 runs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. So really not the showing you needed against a top 5 team in your conference in a huge weekend there. Just really crapped the bed on that one. From there, Brian O'Connor and Justin Parker just had to piece it together. You had Tyler Pitzer with 2 innings, Jack Gleason with .2 innings, Dane Burns with 1/3 of an inning. You had Fowler come in for 1 1/3. And then probably the 2 best moments of the game from the mound Jack Bauer giving you 2.1 innings, and then Chris Billingsley coming in with the bases loaded late in the game there where you absolutely had to have a strikeout. And he actually gets the huge strikeout there to keep Mississippi State within striking distance. So props to him. Jack Bauer really looked the part that you hope he will be a superstar. Again, no longer throwing 102 and wild, pulled some off the velocity, sitting around 97, 98, but a absolutely disgusting sweeping slider that'll wrap around the back of a right-handed hitter, and it was working on Thursday night. So huge moments there from some of the younger guys, but effectively screws your whole weekend. With Foster only giving you 2 innings, I mean, we ended up using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different pitchers the rest of that game. And now you have to figure out what to do the rest of the weekend as well. So from the start, Charlie Foster kind of set the tone, unfortunately, for the entire weekend. um, on the mound for Georgia, Joey Volchko pretty much dominated the Bulldog lineup. He went 5 innings, 8 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and 3 Ks. We just could not get anything going against him at all. It was, not only top to bottom, people struggled, but it was more situational the entire weekend as well. And we'll get into some of that later. But um, the bright spot for State on Thursday, you had Garrick Fry go 3 for 4 with 2 runs and an RBI. Ryder Woodson 1 for 4, but 3 RBIs there. And then you had a home run from Aiden Till and Garrick Fry in this game. Um, Ultimately, you lose though 10-9. Mississippi State made it a game, and the bullpen mate would have been better if we would have taken the run rule and gone to the house. But you make it a game. We almost come back and win, and very entertaining there late, but just kind of sleptwalk through half the game. And against a team like Georgia, you can't do that. Friday night, I actually got to go to this game, and what a game it was, an absolute pitcher's duel. But Mississippi State does lose the game 3-1, and they lose the series in the first 2 games against Georgia. Um, the story of the game, Tomas Valinkas versus Dylan Vigue, an absolute masterclass on pitching. Tomas does his same old thing, 7.1 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 0 walks in 7 1/3, but has 10 Ks. And he actually got the loss, which is just absolutely disgusting to have that stat line and you take a loss. Dylan Vigue for Georgia went 5.1, 2 hits, 1 run, 6 walks, and 6 Ks. And again, State just really couldn't get anything going. We did score first in the bottom of the first on a ground out to the first baseman. Ace Reese ended up coming across the plate there. And there was no other scoring until Georgia hits a solo home run off of Oshak Hennessy to right field. That made it 1-1. And then Wynn for Georgia homers in the 8th, another solo shot to put them up 2-1. And then in the top of the 9th, you're really thinking, okay, we get to the bottom of the 9th down a run. We've got a really good shot here. Good part of the lineup was coming up. But Mississippi State just continuing to find ways to lose ball games. And again, not so much what the other team is doing to win the game. So far, most of the losses for Mississippi State are about what Mississippi State's doing to itself to lose the game. Not to take anything away from Georgia, but this is a prime example. You're in the top of the 9th, you're down 2-1, and Georgia gets a runner on first. Well, that runner steals second base, and just a completely uncompetitive throw. Wasn't even close to getting him. So he steals second and gets on second base there. And then we give up a passed ball that puts him on third base with 1 out. And then a sac fly to left field scores the run and puts them up 3-1, which in a game like that, the difference between scoring 1 run to tie it and 2 to win it versus needing 2 runs just to tie it, it seemed insurmountable the way our offense had been going. Just really looked bad all night, just uncompetitive swings the entire night, swinging at balls out of the zone. Georgia threw probably 75% spin the entire weekend, very few fastballs. And when they did throw fastballs, we watched them primarily go right down the middle. Um, a lot of swings where we're sticking our butt out and just throwing our arms at it. The mindset that we had just was not very good the entire weekend. It was really, really poor body language. Just really looked bad from an overall standpoint. Um, Offensively in this game, you had Noah Sullivan go 2 for 4. Reed Stallman goes 1 for 5 with an RBI. Now State ends up losing Aiden Till in this game. We don't know for how long. He's day to day. He took a pitch off the foot, the meat of the foot, and there in the bottom of the fifth, and ends up finishing running the bases. He goes out to play center, and he just can't do it. Um, so it is what it is. You lose Aiden Till. James Nunnally comes in and pinch hits for him. But ultimately, we lose the game 3-1 to lose the series. We're going to revisit a situation in that game here in just a moment. Saturday morning, you're hoping you salvage at least one game against Georgia, and it really felt like we would. Saturday morning, 10 a.m. first pitch due to weather, moving in later that day. Mississippi State actually was up 3-0. In the first inning, Ace Reese hits a 2-run blast to kind of show his presence for the weekend finally. And then Vitas Valinkas hits a home run in the second, just an absolute laser to dead away center field there. Put State up 3-0. Well, we give up a single and a 3-run home run in the fifth, and Georgia goes up 4-3. And then Hudson hits another home run in the fifth. And I mean, just an absolute wall scraper. And that puts Georgia up 5-3. You're moving into the sixth inning. Mississippi State actually ties it up 5-5 on a clutch 2-run home run by Garrick Fry. So we're 5-5 coming out of the sixth inning. And it stays that way until extras when in the top of the 10th, Oshak Hennessy again hurts Mississippi State by hitting a 3-run home run to left field for the 8-5 lead and the ultimate win. That completes the sweep of Mississippi State at Dudy Noble Field. In this game, no Georgia pitcher pitched more than 2 innings. It was very much a bullpen game for Georgia. Their starter didn't even make it out of the first inning, and State loses the game. Duke Stone for State looked pretty good for the most part. Goes 4 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, and then 10 Ks. And he's one of those, he seems to pitch better the more stressful the situation becomes, where, he may walk a guy or two, he may load the bases, but he shuts it down. And he shut down bases loaded several times this game, and just really, really clutch there by him. Bryce Chance moved to the leadoff spot in this game with the absence of Aiden Till, and actually goes 2-for-4 in the leadoff spot. Vitas Valencius goes 2-for-4 as well. And Noah Sullivan, only highlighting him because I think he shared the frustration of all the fans, not only just of Mississippi State, but college baseball fans as a whole. He goes 0-for-3 and ultimately gets ejected for arguing balls and strikes, which I have absolutely no problem with whatsoever. I wish Brian O'Connor would have been a little more vocal with the umpires. He stayed on them on Thursday night, but ultimately, I thought he had a great chance heading into the bottom of the ninth in one of those games to really motivate the team. And, I'm not saying he should look to get ejected on purpose. But getting ejected is absolutely a strategy to motivate your ball club. And you don't think Ron Polk ever used that strategy? And it worked many, many times throughout his career. And on a dead night where we just looked bad, our body language was bad, and the umpires just continued screwing State in so many different ways. The strike zones in all three games were horrendously embarrassing. I mean, I've seen better strike zones at the junior high level in middle school. So just got screwed royally on several pitches in key moments. I mean, we're talking balls that are 2.5 inches below the zone getting called strikes. Curveballs that are being caught on the top of the catcher's foot being called strikes the entire weekend. And, one of the announcers mentioned framing. And yeah, catchers can steal strikes by great frame jobs. That's not what we had from Daniel Jackson in Georgia. The frame jobs were not good. He was full arm catching it and bringing it up this far and fooling the umpires. Um, Really, really poor officiating. Now, I mean, that's not why State lost. They did not lose because we got bad strikes and balls called. We lost because we decided we weren't going to hit the ball all weekend. Um, by far the worst offensive weekend State's had this season to date. And just the production wasn't there. The approach was not there. Didn't feel like we were attacking the Georgia pitchers. And, situationally too, I don't know where our mind is at, but this team so far this season does two things that are just so bad as just when it comes to the basics of baseball. One thing is pass balls. Obviously, that has been a major issue, and Kevin Milewski had kind of sequestered that issue and had looked really good for a few weeks once he got healthy. Thursday night, I don't know what happened with Kevin, but it was bad. Um, did not look himself at all. Multiple pass balls. And then what happens? Brian O'Connor pulls in and puts Andrew Raymond behind the plate. And what happens? We immediately have another passed ball. And you cannot win in the SEC if your catcher is not a brick wall back there. I think I added it up, and we basically gave up. We gave up 2 runs to Arkansas on back-to-back pass balls. We gave up, I know 1, I think 2 to Southern Miss to lose that game. So that's 4 runs right there. Um, if I remember correctly, we had 1 against UCLA, and then we had 2 this weekend that really cost us. So you're looking at 6 or 7 runs that this team has given up just off of pass balls alone. Just on pass balls, you've given up 6 or 7 runs. And you look at these scores and what we're losing by in the games that we've lost, and that makes a huge difference. You give Southern Miss 2 runs and you lost by 1. You give Georgia a chance on a pass ball here and you lose by 2 on Friday. And then UCLA, you lose by 1. Arkansas, you end up losing by 1 or 2. So the pass balls matter, and they make a big impact in the game. And something's got to give. You can't have 3 catchers and all 3 not be able to block up pitches in the dirt. The thing is, though, it wasn't even that on some of them. Andrew Raymond has had multiple pitches that literally just hit his mitt and go to the backstop. It makes no sense. And I don't know how it continues to happen and why we cannot stop it. But it's got to stop. We've got to find a way to stop it. The second thing we do very poorly on, and I don't know if it's a coaching thing, I don't know if they're being told to, but you shouldn't have to tell a Division I athlete when the moment in the game is big. Prime example here, in the bottom of the 6th inning on Friday, Mississippi State is losing by I think we were down 1 run at this point. So Garrick Fry grounds out to his shortstop, so there's 1 out, nobody on. Ryan Woodson singles up the middle, and then Jacob Parker walks right behind him. Okay, so you're in the 6th inning. You've got a runner on first and second with 1 out. What happens? Georgia comes out and they change pitchers. Okay, Kevin Milewski, your catcher, comes up to bat against a brand new pitcher for Georgia, and you're thinking, yes, this is the best chance we have right here. This is the best chance we've had in this ball game to get some runs in. We get a base hit here, we can tie the game, and we're in business. Kevin Milewski swings at the first pitch and flies into an infield fly. Runners don't advance, and now you have 2 outs with a runner on first and second. I mean, you can't do that. It's ridiculous. So that happens. Bryce Chance comes up and he walks. So now the bases are loaded. And James Nunnally pitch hits for an injured Aiden Till. So you've got bases loaded and 2 outs and a pinch hitter coming up for his first at bat of the day. What happens? Again, we swing at the first pitch and we ground into a fielder's choice to end the inning. It is common sense in baseball, especially in a big moment. You do not swing at the first pitch of a brand new pitcher coming into the game, especially when you just watched him warm up and he threw 6 straight pitches that were nowhere close to the strike zone. And we go up there and we swing at the first pitch in the best moment we have to either tie or take the lead in the ballgame. And to make matters worse, we do the same thing 2 batters later when we have a guy coming off the bench as a pinch hitter and he swings at the very first pitch. It's stuff like that that is infuriating to watch. And this team does it consistently. It's like we have 0 situational awareness for the moment that the game is in. And it gets very frustrating because those are things right there that are so simple. You should not have to coach a player to know those things. And if we are telling them, hey, go up and swing at the first pitch, that's wrong. I'm sorry. I love Brian O'Connor, but if we're coaching that, that's ridiculous. And that's got to stop. The story besides Georgia sweeping Mississippi State this weekend is Georgia hitting home runs. Georgia came into this weekend leading the country with 87 home runs as a team. Okay. 30 more than the second place team, which is Pittsburgh. This weekend, Georgia hit 6 total home runs to Mississippi State's 4. Now that may not seem like anything. However, there was maybe 2 of those home runs by Georgia that were absolute nukes. Trey Phelps had one to center field that was just an absolute mammoth shot. That guy has hands of lightning, swinging the bat. And then Oshak Hennessy hit a fastball to right center field that was just looked like home run derby. Valinkas just grooved it. And at that point in the game, the pitch calling had gotten a little predictable, and he sat fastball and absolutely smoked it. The rest of the home runs for Georgia were very odd. You have a lot of curveballs that are out of the zone that are being hit off the very end of the bat, and yet they're going 400 feet. You got home runs being hit on sliders coming inside to a lefty that's hit off the handle, and it goes 400 feet. So after this weekend, Georgia has now hit 93 home runs just 8 weeks into the season. 93, 8 weeks into the season. And again, the next closest team is 30 behind them with 63. At this point, it gets a little suspicious. You had Louisiana Lafayette back in 2013, 2014. In 2013, they led the nation in home runs. And it was pretty impressive because a team like that at that level up to that point had not really done anything like that before. They hit 74 home runs as a team in 2013. Okay, well, in 2013, they lead the country with 74 home runs. In 2014, they have the best season they've ever had, ranked number one in the country. They hit 58 total home runs. But there has been some rumor coming out of that team. You know, that team ended up losing in a super regional that they hosted to Ole Miss that year in 2014. And they fizzled out at the end of the year once postseason play started. And all of a sudden, the home runs didn't exist anymore. Well, you've even had former players come out and say that bat rolling is a thing. And bat rolling absolutely happens in baseball. The SEC is supposed to check bats before each game. However, I don't know how many they catch. And I'm not saying Georgia is rolling their bats. I'm just telling you that 8 weeks into the season, they have 30 more home runs as a team than the next closest team in the country. I'm also telling you that when you see a guy pull his front shoulder out off the ball and it's a curveball in the right-handed batter's box, and that ball goes 410 feet off the very end of the bat, that's not natural. So, again, that is something to watch, and I would put a large amount of money right now today on Georgia won't make it out of the postseason. They won't make it to Omaha, and they will lose in either a regional or a super, and their home runs will drop off tremendously once we start the SEC tournament. Look at the number of home runs they hit up to the SEC tournament, and then look at the number of home runs they hit once the SEC tournament starts. And that's how you'll know. Because I guarantee you that is what is going to happen. I'm telling you right now. So keep an eye on that. Now, Mississippi State, Brian O'Connor didn't come into the post-game press conference after the game Saturday throwing chairs. So better than me because I would have been pissed. He had just ripped the team after a 12-0 win against Grambling the Tuesday before, where he just kind of felt like the approach didn't look right, didn't feel right. And he didn't really do that this weekend. For whatever reason, our offense the approach was terrible. We looked uncompetitive. We just couldn't get anything going. And, rather than throw some chairs and everything, there was some accountability. He said, we've got to understand we can't allow this to happen again. But also made it very clear he wanted the team to get away from the field on Sunday, go enjoy Easter with the family, go to church, have a good time, and then come back Monday, today, ready to work. And I think that could not have been better for State. I think they needed a little bit of a break. This is a very long season, and it takes a lot out of you as a college-age student, college-age kid. So this upcoming week, Mississippi State is going to get back in action facing UAB. UAB is not a bad team at all. The predictors have Mississippi State winning in like a 7-4, 9-5 type game. And I would say that's about accurate because UAB is not just one of those midweeks you roll over. Um, but their pitching depth is pretty bad. They don't have a lot in the bullpen. They can score a little bit, but what do they look like against SEC arms? Obviously, they should be overmatched here, but we will see what happens there. I fully expect Mississippi State to win that game. And then this upcoming weekend, Mississippi State's going to face Tennessee. Now, obviously, Tony Vitello leaves to go to the San Francisco Giants, and Tennessee completely lost its culture in its baseball program. They are no longer the swag daddies and the fur coats and all that garbage. Um, just the attitude has completely left the program that Tony Vitello instilled in them. And they're no longer the villains of college baseball. And what comes with that is they're not that good this year. They have definitely fallen down the pecking order. Um, but there are a few things that they do well that need to be highlighted, and we'll highlight those for you later in the week. But things like strikeout rate versus walk rate, slugging percentage, their pitching depth. So Tennessee actually does well in their power efficiency. They don't chase as many pitches out of the zone, and they get a lot of strikeouts as a pitching staff. So Mississippi State is going to have its work cut out for it in this upcoming weekend series, but this is a weekend that you have to have. You're facing a down Tennessee team at home at Duty Noble, and then next week you go on the road to a bad South Carolina team. And number one, both of those series have to be wins. They just have to be. If you can sweep one of those series, now you're back in business. You have to find something to cancel out this sweep that you faced at home. And as of right now, overall, Mississippi State is technically fine because you swept Vanderbilt at Duty Noble, and then you go on the road and you swept Ole Miss in Oxford. Ole Miss just had a massive series win against the Florida Gators, and that came out of nowhere. I fully expected Florida to win, if not sweep, that series. So an absolute huge weekend for the Ole Miss Rebels to secure that series. In the SEC, you've got a log jam at the top of the conference now. We entered this weekend with Mississippi State and Georgia and Texas all tied for first place in the conference. And what ended up happening after that was Georgia now sitting alone at the top of the SEC standings because Texas ended up losing a game out there to South Carolina. So right now, today, you've got Georgia as the number one team in the SEC, sitting at 10-2. You've got Texas in second place, sole possession at 9-3. Alabama in sole possession of third place with 8-4. And then you've got Texas A&M, Mississippi State, and Florida all tied for the fourth place spot at 7-5. So Mississippi State with a big opportunity over the next 2 weeks to climb back up into the conference conversation. Georgia's going to face some teams too that'll knock them down a peg, and we will see what happens there. But story of the weekend, Mississippi State goes into the weekend tied for first, leaves it tied for fourth, as you don't win a single game on the weekend. Really, really rough weekend there. As of tonight, looking at some scores around the country tonight, as far as ranked matchup goes, you've got Oklahoma playing Dallas Baptist tonight, and it looks like they're up 9-3 in the bottom of the seventh inning. And then let's see if any other. Nope, that's the only SEC team that played tonight. You've got some big games tomorrow: Missouri versus Missouri State. Missouri State will very, very likely win that ball game. Kentucky and Louisville, That's going to be a big one. Um, South Carolina and College of Charleston, that could be one. And then probably the matchup of the day, uh, you've got a few that just really could change things in the college baseball landscape, especially in this conference. You've got Jacksonville State at Auburn. Jacksonville State, 12-0, undefeated in Conference USA play, and they could easily take that Auburn game there. Then you've got Florida at Florida State. That's going to be a great game too. And one that I think is a little underrated here, two of them underrated. You've got Bethune-Cookman, a SWAC team who's 10-2 in the SWAC, 22-10 overall, going to face LSU. And you remember LSU's had some bad midweek losses. That's one to watch right there. And then Texas A&M playing at Texas State. Texas State, one of those sleeper teams for Omaha from the Sun Belt Conference. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on that as we get the midweek behind us and head into a huge weekend opportunity for Mississippi State to get back on the right side of things. So we'll be back with you, and hopefully Mississippi State can take care of the Blazers, and we'll recap that, and we'll get into a deeper dive of the Tennessee Volunteers as we go into the weekend later this week. Thank you for joining us tonight. You guys have a great week, and we'll be back with you later on. Hell State.